In the world of the Avengers, trust is the ultimate currency. But what happens when the biggest threat isn't a mad titan from outer space, but a traitor from within their own ranks? Today, we're going deep on the mountain of evidence that suggests one of the original Avengers is about to commit the biggest betrayal we've ever seen.
Okay, let's just get right into it. We all know the MCU is gearing up for its next big bad, the one and only Doctor Doom. And when he makes his grand entrance, the rumor is he won't be coming alone. So that brings us to a pretty shocking question. Which hero, which Avenger, is going to be the one to switch sides and stand with him? Look, I'm not going to bury the lead here. All the signs, from insider leaks to the character's entire history, all the way to the comic books themselves, they all point to one person, Dr. Stephen Strange. I know, that sounds completely insane, right? But stick with me, because the case for it is way more convincing than you might think.
So yeah, that's the core of our theory today. Doctor Strange, the master of the mystic arts, the hero who is absolutely crucial in defeating Thanos, is the most likely Avenger to become Doctor Doom's right-hand man. Let's start building this case with our very first piece of evidence. It's a visual and it's a bombshell.
This whole thing really kicks into high gear with a piece of concept art. Now, this art supposedly got posted online for a hot second before being yanked down immediately. And as we all know, in the MCU world, when something gets deleted that fast, it usually means it's the real deal. And what this art showed was pretty staggering.
So let's paint the picture that this art showed. First, you've got the main man himself, Dr. Doom. But he's not in his classic green armor. No, he's wearing these flowing, white, hooded robes, and he's sitting on a throne. This is an almost perfect match for his God Emperor Doom look from the comics, a version of Doom who has absolute godlike power over reality itself.
And check out who's with him. Over to his right, you see Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four, and her son, Franklin Richards. Now, they're not his prisoners. In the comic story this is pulling from, Doom actually warps all of reality to make them his wife and son. That's the level of power we're talking about here. He literally creates his own perfect family. And this is the part that changes everything. Because on Doom's left side stands a very familiar face, Doctor Strange. And he's not in chains. He's not fighting. He's standing there as an advisor, as an enforcer. In the comics, he actually takes the title of Sheriff Strange, acting as God Emperor Doom's most trusted confidant. This single leaked image puts Strange squarely on the side of the villain. The immediate question is, why? How could this possibly happen?
Okay, so a leak is one thing, but a picture needs context, right? It needs a motive. So let's move on and see how this shocking potential betrayal actually lines up perfectly with Doctor Strange's entire character arc in the MCU. Because believe it or not, he's made these kinds of morally questionable, high-risk calls before.
I want you to think all the way back to Infinity War. Remember this incredible moment? Strange uses the Time Stone to peer into the future. And he doesn't just look for a few good options. He sifts through 14,605 possible futures just to find the one path, the single timeline where they win. This scene tells you everything you need to know about how his mind works. He's a grandmaster playing cosmic chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And that one winning plan was absolutely insane. Think about what he had to do to make it happen. To get that single victory, he had to do things that looked like a complete betrayal. He just handed the Time Stone over to Thanos. He let the snap happen. He let half of all life in the universe get wiped out, including himself. Why? Because it was the only way. Because he knew, 5 years down the road, Tony Stark had to be alive to make that final sacrifice. Strange was willing to accept a catastrophic loss in the short term to secure the ultimate victory in the long term.
So that brings us to the big question. The Time Stone is gone, yes, but the man who used it, the mindset that made that call, is still here. So what happens when a new, universe-ending conflict appears on the horizon? What happens when Strange looks at all the possibilities and realizes the only path to saving the multiverse involves another impossible choice? Like joining forces with Doctor Doom?
Now, you might be wondering, well, how could he see the future without the Time Stone? And that's a fair question. But the thing is, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness gave us a pretty clear answer. It gave us a physical change in him that signals a deep shift in his character and a new, way more dangerous source of power. Right at the end of his last movie, Strange literally grows a third eye on his forehead. In the MCU, we're told this is a direct side effect of using the Darkhold, that book of seriously forbidden, soul-corrupting magic. While we don't know its full power in the movies yet, its comic book counterpart is incredibly potent. The third eye allows the user to see things as they really are, to cut through any illusion or deception. It's not a huge leap to think the MCU might use this as his substitute for the Time Stone's future self. What's even more alarming is that Multiverse of Madness practically spent its entire runtime showing us a very disturbing pattern. It turns out, variants of Stephen Strange are uniquely, terrifyingly prone to going rogue. We saw the Strange of Earth 838, who caused an incursion that destroyed a whole universe just trying to beat Thanos. We saw a Sinister Strange, who was so corrupted by the Darkhold that he annihilated his own reality. And what's the one key detail? Sinister Strange had a third eye. Our Strange has now walked that same dark path, used that same evil magic, and now he bears the exact same physical mark of corruption.
So we have a leak, and we have the precedent in the MCU. But honestly, the most powerful piece of evidence comes directly from the source material. This isn't just some wild fan theory someone came up with online. This exact storyline, this Strange and Doom alliance, has already played out in one of Marvel's biggest, most celebrated comic events.
Let's quickly run through the 2015 Secret Wars comic. Basically, the entire multiverse is dying. Universes are crashing into each other in events called incursions. Strange and his group, the Illuminati, try to stop it, and they fail. He joins another team to fight the collapse, and they fail too. At the absolute 11th hour, with almost nothing left, Dr. Doom comes to him. He makes the argument that he, Doom, is the only one with the sheer force of will to save what's left. And Strange, seeing literally no other way out, agrees. They work together, Doom manages to steal the power of cosmic gods called the Beyonders, and from the wreckage of the dead multiverse, he forges a new, patchwork reality called Battleworld. And the very first person he appoints as his sheriff, his right-hand man, Stephen Strange. And on Battleworld, their whole dynamic is just fascinating. Doom is God. Full stop. He is the absolute ruler of this new reality. But Strange isn't just some mindless henchman. He's Doom's confidant, his chief investigator, the one person whose intellect he seems to respect. But, and this is crucial, the comic makes it clear that while Strange is serving Doom, he's secretly questioning him, working in the shadows, always looking for a better way out of the situation. He's playing the long game from the inside. And this weird, complicated relationship isn't a one-time thing. It's built on decades of comic book history. There's a classic story, Triumph and Torment, where Strange is honor-bound to help Doom literally travel to hell to save his mother's soul. It's this incredible story of manipulation and grudging respect. Or look at something very recent, from the Blood Hunt event, where Doom tricks Strange into lending him the powers of the Sorcerer Supreme, and then just decides, you know what, I think I'll keep this. Their entire history is this dance of intense rivalry, intellectual respect, and constant cunning betrayal. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've looked at the leak, we've reviewed Strange's history of making the hard, impossible choices, we've seen the physical corruption of the Darkhold manifest on him, and we've walked through the literal comic book blueprint for this exact alliance. So what does it all really mean?
When you lay all the evidence out side by side, the case file becomes incredibly strong. The leaked art gives us a potential destination, a glimpse of the endgame. His own actions in Infinity War gives us the psychological profile of someone who would do this. The Third Eye gives us the physical proof of his walk on the dark side. And the Secret Wars comic gives us the narrative roadmap. Every single piece builds on the last, and together they paint a very clear, if very shocking picture of what's to come.
And that brings us to the final haunting thought. If Doctor Strange does join Doctor Doom, it forces us to ask a really tough question. Is he a traitor who abandoned his friends and everything he stood for? Or is he once again the only person in the room who can see the one path to victory out of millions, the only one willing to make an unthinkable sacrifice, a necessary betrayal because he knows it's the only way?